The Icicle Works. The Icicle Works, also known as Icicle Works in the United States, are an English alternative rock band and were named after the 1960 short story The Day the Icicle Works Closed by science fiction author Frederik Pohl. They had a top 20 UK hit with Love is a Wonderful Colour 1983. In the US and Canada, they had only one top 40 hit, the 1984 single Birds Fly Whisper to a Scream. Led by singer-songwriter Ian McNabb, the band released 5 albums from 1984 to 1990 before breaking up in 1991. McNabb later convened a revised lineup of the band in 2006 to play live shows. This revised Icicle Works lineup still plays sporadic live dates. History: 1980–1983, formation and early years. The band was founded in Liverpool in 1980 when bassist Chris Lay, who had been in a couple of local rock bands including Elanor and Blind Owl, answered an advertisement. The two got together and started writing. They quickly added drummer Chris Sharrock, who had previously drummed for the Cherry Boys, and began playing live shows as the Icicle Works. In 1981, the band recorded a 6-song independently released cassette entitled Ascending. In 1982, they released the independent single Nirvana, which made it to number 15 on the UK indie chart. The following year, the Icicle Works were signed to the Beggars Banquet label, who issued the single Birds Fly Whisper to a Scream on their subsidiary label Situation 2. Later that year, the Icicle Works released their biggest UK hit, 1983's Love is a Wonderful Colour, which was a top 15 single. Their 1984 eponymous debut album followed shortly thereafter, reached number 24 on the UK albums chart, and entered the US top 40. Appearing on the US top 40 singles chart at around the same time and hitting the Canadian top 20 was Whisper to a Scream Birds Fly, a retitled and slightly remixed version of the band's Situation 2 release of 1983. 1984–1988. Touring years. After the release of their self-titled debut album, the Icicle Works struggled to match their initial commercial success. They continued to receive critical acclaim as a live band and secured a loyal fan base both in the UK and abroad. In September 1984, the band issued the UK-only single Hollow Horse, which flopped, though it later became a live favorite in the band's set. A series of follow-up singles similarly missed the charts, including the Motown-flavored All the Daughters and the folk rock-inspired 7 Horses. Added to the live lineup around this time was keyboardist Chris Tugsy Turrell. Turrell was not an official member of the band and did not play on any of their recordings. Prior to Turrell's arrival, both McNabb and Lay had previously doubled up on instruments, playing guitar, keyboard, and percussion at live gigs. Lay was often seen playing the octavans, and McNabb occasionally played an open-tuned guitar with his right hand and a keyboard with his left. The band's second LP, The Small Price of a Bicycle, came out in mid-1985. The album was a UK-only release. Their US label, Arista Records, dismissed the album as punk rock demos and declined to release it. Beginning in 1986, though the band was still officially a trio, keyboardist Dave Green became an auxiliary member of the Icicle Works, replacing Turrell. Green both played at live shows and contributed to the band's recordings. In early 1986, Beggars Banquet compiled all the 12 mixes of the band's singles onto a UK-only LP entitled 7 Singles Deep, which hit no. 52 on the UK albums chart. In July 1986, the Icicle Works had a UK chart hit with the almost punk-sounding Understanding Jane, which peaked at number 52. The song was later covered by the Wild Hearts on their 2008 covers album Stop Us If You've Heard It Before, Vol. 1. The pop-oriented follow-up single Who Do You Want for Your Love peaked at number 54, and January 1987's Evangeline peaked at number 53. All 3 songs found their way on to the 1987 album If You Want to Defeat Your Enemy, Sing His Song, produced by Ian McNabb. The album was released in both Britain and North America and hit number 28 on the UK Albums Chart. Later in 1987, the Icicle Works issued the single High Time. It peaked at number 76 in the UK, but in 1988 it hit number 13 on the newly created US Modern Rock chart. The band's fourth studio album, Blind, was produced by McNabb and issued in 1988 and reached the top 40 of the album chart. The album featured 13 tracks in the UK and Canada, but the US version of the album featured a different track listing, slightly edited versions of a few songs, and a different cover. Still, both versions of the album contained High Time and the minor British hit Little Girl Lost, which peaked at number 59. 1989–1991, new lineup and split. By the late 1980s, tensions within the group were increasing, allegedly due to McNabb's controlling ways. By 1988, in addition to writing virtually all of the Icicle Works material, as well as singing and playing guitar, McNabb was producing the group's records. Accordingly, shortly after Blind was issued, drummer Chris Sharrock departed to the La's. Sharrock would later join the Lightning Seeds and World Party, and would drum for Robbie Williams' Del Amitri, Eurythmics, Oasis, and BDI. As of 2018, he is the drummer for Noel Gallagher's High Flying Birds. Late also departed at this time. Beggars Banquet subsequently dropped the group from their roster. McNabb continued to perform under the name The Icicle Works for a while. Dave Green was promoted to official membership status, although he left the band within a year. Zach Starkey was added on drums for a time, and various keyboardists, bassists, and guitarists passed through before the band released their final album, Permanent Damage 1990, recorded for Epic/Sony. By that time, the band's lineup was McNabb, bassist Roy Corkill, former Tank and Jethro Tull drummer Paul Burgess, keyboardist Dave Baldwin, and backing vocalist Mark Revell. This second-generation version of the Icicle Works broke up after Permanent Damage failed to chart, and Epic dropped the band. McNabb's solo career officially began in 1991 with the release of the single Great Dreams of Heaven. In 1992, a compilation called The Best of the Icicle Works was released, containing the best of their work from the Beggars Banquet years. 2 years later, a live recording of a 1987 concert was issued. 2006 present, revival and studio album reissues. After having been a solo act for 15 years, in 2006 McNabb unexpectedly reactivated the Icicle Works name for a series of 6 UK concerts in October of that year. This version of the band consisted of McNabb, former second-generation Icicle Works bassist Roy Corkill, and 2 new members, keyboard player Richard Naif and Ix-Dodgy drummer Matthew Priest, both of McNabb's longtime solo touring band. Original drummer Chris Sharrock had been invited to play with the revived group, but declined to participate. That same year, the Icicle Works' self-titled debut album was reissued as both a 2-CD and limited edition 3-CD set, each featuring a wealth of bonus tracks and radio sessions. The Icicle Works later appeared at Gilfest 2007 and played a 9-date UK tour in December 2007. McNabb and company played 2 free shows as the Icicle Works in Liverpool in January 2008. Later in 2008, a compilation of unreleased early Icicle Works tracks and demos called Lost Icicles Volume 1 was issued as a digital-only release. Lost Icicles Volume 2, a recording of a live show from 1984, was issued as a digital-only release around the same time. McNabb continued to play gigs as a solo artist throughout 2009 and 2010. In 2009, the band's 5th album, Permanent Damage, was reissued in a 2-CD set with bonus tracks. Over the next 2 years, the band's 3 remaining studio albums were reissued in deluxe 2-CD and 3-CD sets, all featuring numerous bonus tracks. After a 3-year hiatus from performing, the McNabb/Corkill/Naif/Priest lineup played a series of 30th anniversary gigs as the Icicle Works in 2011. In an unrelated event, on 11 August of that year, original Icicle Works member Chris Lee joined Ian McNabb on stage at a McNabb solo gig. The duo performed 3 Icicle Works songs and 1 cover song by The Clash. It was the first time McNabb and Lee had performed together in 23 years. While McNabb continues to perform, record, and release new material as a solo artist, the Icicle Works typically continue to play a handful of UK shows every year or two. Band members. Current: Ian McNabb guitar, lead vocals, keyboards 1980-1990, 2006 present. Roy Corkill bass 1988-1990, 2006 present. Richard Naif keyboards 2006 present. Matthew Priest drums 2006 present former. Chris Lee bass, backing vocals 1980-1988. Chris Sharrock drums 1981-1988. Zach Starkey drums 1988. Dave Green keyboards 1986-1988. Dave Baldwin keyboards 1989-1990. Jed Lynch drums 1989. Mark Ravel backing vocals 1990. Paul Burgess drums 1990. Discography. Studio albums. Eps. Compilation albums, live albums, singles, promotional singles,